Hey guys, it's Double D from the Entitled Millennials podcast, and this is my Thinking Out Loud series. Well guys, I assume you know why I'm making this video. Today we've got potentially the worst news of 2020. The worst news even with what's all been going on with the pandemic. I'm sure everybody has seen that as of today, Wednesday, April 8th of 2020, Bernie Sanders has officially dropped out of the Democratic race. Now, like a lot of you guys, I've been fighting for Bernie Sanders for the last 5 years of my life. I've been fighting for Bernie and his movement my entire adult life. I'm 26 years old now. I'll be 27 in June. I got on the Bernie train back in 2015. And I was 21, 22. And, ever since that, since the first moment I heard him speak, whether it was railing against some, corporate politicians and on the Capitol, or seeing one of his speeches, or, seeing all these memes about him with like a quote, ever since I first started seeing him and hearing about him, I've been on the Bernie train. And, since 2015, I've gotten deeper and deeper into politics, and I've felt my convictions, like so many of you, grow stronger. My sense of justice has, over this time, grown more keen. And I've learned, not only more and more about the dark underbelly of our system, but I've also learned a lot about, what's good about America, and I've learned in that time also a lot about myself. We're in some really hard times right now. Obviously, I don't need to tell you, with everything going on with the pandemic, there's a lot of fear and uncertainty. As if there wasn't enough fear and uncertainty with having Donald Trump in the White House, with having a very long and grueling and bitter and sketchy primary season. I think it is fair to say that we as Americans, and indeed as citizens of the planet Earth, are going through some very dark times. And I think that's why this news, of Bernie dropping out is extra hard right now. It's extra hard because even with everything going on with the Trump presidency, with the clearly corrupt DNC, with the pandemic, back some months ago with the rising tensions with Iran, with so many millions of people being out of work right now, just everything going on. We still had, over these last 5 years with everything that's gone on, we still had Bernie, as this little beacon, this bright beacon of hope. Of things are, we had this sense with Bernie, with his movement, with his campaign in 2016, and again, obviously here in 2020, we had this feeling that so long as Bernie was in the race, spearheading the progressive movement, that while things might be hard now, we had a potentially beautiful future to look forward to that kept us going, during this pandemic. We just felt like, at least I did, I felt like eventually we would come out on the other side because Bernie was fighting for us, because of the movement we had built. It felt almost preordained that somehow, some way, sometime, we would win, and, you know, Bernie's message would prevail, and we'd be able to take our country back and rebuild it and make up for the wrongs that this country has done, and build a better future for working people and, well, for our children and grandchildren. And I'm sure you guys share the sentiment that I do, that now that Bernie's dropped out, it feels like that rug's been pulled out from under us. That feels a lot like that sense of hope that we have a brighter future to look forward to has been, you know, stolen from us. So many of us have put so much time, so much effort, so much blood, sweat, and tears into this campaign, into this movement over the last 5 years, to have it suddenly stop on a Wednesday nonetheless seems surreal. And I'm with you guys right now in feeling a little bit lost, feeling a little bit, if I'm honest, hopeless. I sat down to make this video today, hopefully trying to rekindle that hope with, you know, the hope of this movement within you guys. And really, in the process of doing that, hopefully rekindling it within myself. But I gotta be honest, I'm having a hard time doing it. You know, sitting down here in front of you guys, in front of this camera, I'm having a hard time finding that hope. You know, the Democratic Party has cheated time and time again. They stole the election in 2016. And even though Bernie dropped out of his own accord, seemingly, it feels like they've stolen it again. And they've stolen it for a man that's a corporatist, a rapist, and who's, you know, goddamn losing his mind. And that fact is just even more of a slap in the face. So like I said, I'm trying to sit down here with you guys, trying to muster up some hope. And don't get me wrong, this fight isn't over. This movement isn't dead. But it's hard to, you know, deny the fact that we've taken a hard hit. This movement, this progressive movement, this movement of working people took a fucking fat one on the chin today. And the honest truth is, as much as I'd like to sit here and spark some hope and have some revolutionary zeal and fire in my gut, I don't really feel it right now. And the truth is that this is hard. And it's hard for all of us. And it's hard for all those, you know, for everybody that's put time in, made phone calls, knocked doors, showed up at rallies, protested. It's hard. And the truth of the matter is, this is going to take some time. Like I said, we just got hit pretty hard in the face here. And it's going to take time to lick our wounds and regroup and figure out what do we do next. And I guess that is the big question. And other than trying to find some hope with this video, I think that's, you know, what this video is really about is, and I'm sure it's a question that's burning in all your guys' minds and in all of your hearts is, where do we go from here? You know, we're not sure exactly what Bernie's plan is. We can assume he's probably going to endorse Biden like he did with Hillary in 2016. And I know most of us are not down with that. And so the question we pose to ourselves and to one another is, where do we go from here? What do we do now without, you know, Bernie Sanders at the helm of this ship? I can tell you this, I may not know, and forgive me, this is a Thinking Out Loud video. This series is called Thinking Out Loud, and that's what I'm doing, thinking out loud with you guys. And hopefully by the end of it, I'll have a agenda perspective on what we should do and what we can do. And the first thing I know we can do is, no matter how hard this hurt, no matter how bad this hurts, no matter how hopeless we may feel, we have to dig deep inside of ourselves and reach out to one another and not lose hope. Because the establishment and the people that run this country, that's exactly what they want. They're hoping that with the head cut off the snake, so to speak, with Bernie dropping out, that our movement will lose hope and flounder and die, and things can go back to business as usual. But I think all of you, and myself included, know that things can never go back to business as usual. Our movement may have failed at its, prime directive of getting Bernie in the into the White House and enacting sweeping reform of the Democratic Party in United States politics, taking the Senate, taking the House, all those things. It may have fallen short of those admittedly grandiose goals. But the truth is, we have won a lot of battles along the way. And we have not lost. We have not lost because in 2015, the ideas that Bernie Sanders were talking about were considered crazy. Universal health care, tuition-free college, ending the wars, a Green New Deal. These things were not only viewed as impossible, they were viewed as absolutely crazy. Now, in just 5 years, those ideas are pretty mainstream. And millions of Americans are on their computers having conversations like you and I and all of us are right now, talking about these issues. These issues are in the mainstream now, and not just on the internet, but on the establishment mainstream media. The ideas that made this movement possible, that made it as strong as it was, are not going anywhere. With or without Bernie, we all know that we are on the right side of history. That we are on the side of history that stands up not just for working class people, but for minorities and for people who cannot stand up for themselves. So again, I want to say the first thing we can do in light of this bad news that will keep this movement alive is not to lose hope. By no means can we lose hope. We have to foster within ourselves and within our communities, be they online, be they in person, the idea that even though we've lost this battle, the war has just begun. And in a sense, the war really has just begun. Bernie's campaigns in 2016 and 2020, I think, obviously, in our hearts, we wanted it to be the grand moment of seizing control of our government again and reining in corporate excess. We wanted it to be this revolution that changed the course of history. And don't get me wrong, it is that. But in a sense, it's just the beginning. These campaigns were just the period of awakening. The period upon which all the moments of history, all the moments of our movement will be built on. Because here's the thing, guys. Revolutions, although when the critical moment happens, it seems that they just almost in a sense sprung out of nowhere. When they stormed the Bastille, when, in the October Revolution that ended up creating the Soviet Union, when they just made the Tsar abdicate power. It seems like with revolutions like these things just happened. But they didn't. For years and potentially even decades before those, powder keg moments happened, there was a steady awakening of consciousness. So what I'm trying to say is Bernie Sanders in his campaigns over the last 5 years turned out not to be the big revolutionary moment that we hoped, that we thought they would be. But what they did turn out to be was, as I've said in a prior video, the third Great Awakening. It was through these campaigns that millions and millions of people, not just in America, but around the world, unplugged from the system. This movement, if it did nothing else, pulled the wool back from people's eyes. It shone a light under the dark underbelly of the American empire. It awoken class consciousness on a level that has not been seen since the turn of the 20th century. And on the note of not losing hope, I can tell you that this is just the beginning. We have enough people now that are unplugged, that are awake, that have class consciousness and revolutionary zeal pumping in their blood, burning in their heart, that now we can take the steps to creating a real revolution. And that brings me to the next point. What form does this revolution take? Where do we go from here? We've had our awakening under the Bernie Sanders movement. What do we do now? Step one is to continue on how we have since this movement's inception. We keep talking. We keep talking to one another. We keep talking to our neighbors, our colleagues, our co-workers, our community members. We keep going back and forth online. We keep sharing memes. We keep sharing articles. We keep doing YouTube. We keep listening to progressive YouTubers. We keep the dialogue going. Just because Bernie Sanders lost, just because he dropped out, doesn't mean we stop talking. Doesn't mean we keep pushing our narrative of class consciousness and reform of the American system. That's step one in this thing. Like I said, don't lose hope and keep talking. Keep talking. We just got punched in the mouth. We got to regroup. But in the meantime, while we're regrouping, we can continue to have the conversations that fueled this revolution, this movement. And in the coming days, in the coming weeks, in the coming months, we're going to have some decisions to make. I know a lot of us aren't going to vote for Joe Biden. And as hard as Bernie Sanders has worked to reform the Democratic Party, as hard as he's worked to try to change the system from within, we have to ask ourselves, is that what we are going to continue to do? Do we continue to play party politics? Do we vote down ticket? Do we, keep doing the sort of things that Bernie has done, pushing our narrative, pushing our elected representatives to enact the legislation that working class people need? Which I think we all know was Bernie's vision. His vision wasn't necessarily a third party. It wasn't even necessarily massive civil disobedience in the strain of Martin Luther King or Eugene Debs. I think his vision, and he truly believed this vision, was that by slipping into the Democratic Party, by taking positions of power, by getting Democrats that are progressive elected to different seats, that we can eventually change the course of the Democratic Party and put a cog in its machine and its clockwork and force it to recognize the needs of working class people and pull it off the path that it's been on for the last 30, 40 years, which is corporatism. So we need to ask ourselves, are we going to continue along with that plan? I think there's still some merit in trying to work the system in that way while we build a movement outside of that. Obviously, we need to continue to vote for progressives that are, Democrats. They're still using the Democratic machinery, but they have a progressive agenda. We can continue doing that, but I know I'm not alone in thinking that perhaps it's time, given what the Democratic Party has become and given the extremes of which they're willing to go in order to make sure that their ruling class, continues to have its power and hoard its wealth. I think a lot of us are coming to terms with, the fact that it's time to consider a third-party movement. Like I said, in the meantime of answering that question, we need to continue to push for progressives at all levels of government. I think we can still do that. I believe that we can win seats not only in, establishment Democrat states. It has been proven time and time again that progressives win in purple states, and not only in purple states, but in red states. That alone is a clear sign that this movement is far from dead. Progressives like Nina Turner and AOC, we saw that they can win, that they can have a voice that people will listen to and rally around. That's not going away. The millions of people that are awoken, that are unplugged, are not going away. The millions of people that have found their voice are not going away. And now it's just a matter of time before we, like I said, regroup and move forward. And I believe moving forward should take the shape of a third party. We'll do what we can with the Democratic Party while we work to organize that third party. I've heard a lot of people talking about it being a Green Party joining the DSA. I don't know that that's necessarily the right path. What I would like to see is all of the, more socialist or progressive parties join together under one new banner, just quote unquote the Progressive Party, the DSA, the Green Party, everybody coming together under this new banner. That would compound our strength and potentially give us the power needed to win elections and enact legislative change. I believe that's what needs to be done. It's time to #DemExit2020. The time is now to work with the communities that we've built, work with the groups that we built to organize a new third party. And that's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take time. And let's be honest, if we've learned anything about politics, it's going to be incredibly frustrating. But we need to be patient. We need to be patient while we build the infrastructure that will be necessary to build a party that can actually get things done, that can actually win votes en masse and get officials into public office. But, we're going to need more than just a third party. We're going to need organization on many levels. We need labor organization. We need to find a way to strengthen the unions again in this country. We need working people to go on strike. We need working people all around the country to start up a yellow vest movement like we've seen around the world. Because unfortunately, the only language these people understand, the ruling class understands, is the loss of profits. And while we're building our third party, we should also be building a network which will allow us to maintain sustained resistance to the ruling class. And it's going to be a difficult journey. It's going to be hard. It's going to mean putting our jobs, our livelihoods, and potentially our lives at risk. But the only way we're going to change this system and make a new system which actually works for working class people is if we shut the system down. Think about it this way. If you have a machine, a welding machine or a computer or whatever it is, if you have some kind of machine and it's not working right, it's breaking down, you don't start working on it, you don't start fixing it while it's on. That's just ridiculous. In order to fix something, in order to fix a machine, you have to shut it off. And that's what we're going to have to do with our government. I've seen a lot of people joking, with Bernie Sanders dropping out, dropping comments or memes saying, have you tried shutting the government off and turning it back on? And yeah, that's funny, but it's extra funny because it's true. And I know that's scary, guys, but that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to build a third party that will eventually replace the Democratic Party, a third party which has institutions, a constitution in place which prevents the sort of corruption that pervaded the Democratic Party from ever happening within its ranks. And while we're doing that, we need to simultaneously be building a yellow vest movement, a working class solidarity movement that shuts the system down, that stops the trucks from rolling, that stops the warehouses from pumping out products, that shuts the factories down, that shuts the restaurants down, that shuts the sanitation systems down, and goes on strike. If we can do that, if we can pull that off, if we can organize in a cohesive enough way to make it sustained, you watch how fast these politicians start changing their tune. We can do this, and we can do this because we have to do this. We've tried everything else. We've tried fucking with the Democratic Party. We've tried casting our votes, but they've shown that they will rig elections time and time again. The only way we're going to change this system is if we shut it the fuck down. And fuck, I know that's scary, man. I'm scared too. But the time for play nice politics is over. It's time to get mad. I know you're already mad. It's time to get angry. It's time to get the fucking pitchforks and torches out, guys. Shit. You know, I started this video, like I said, trying to find some hope. And well, I don't know about you guys, but I do feel hopeful. You know, I feel trepidation, I feel a little bit of fear. But just talking about a real revolution, shutting the system down, organizing a third party. I don't know about you, but I'm starting to feel a little bit of hope again. Bernie Sanders was a great leader to us. But what was his campaign slogan? Not me, us. And guess what? You are us. All right? I'm us. You're us. Your mom, your dad is us. Your brothers, your sister is us. Your coworkers is us. It's us. Bernie dropping down isn't a sign of defeat. It's not a sign of failure. It's not a sign of quitting. Bernie Sanders is a goddamn old man. And he's been fighting his whole fucking life. It's time to let the man rest. And what he's done by dropping out of this race, he has put the responsibility firmly in our hands to carry on the movement. That means no more excuses, no more half measures. Not me, us. Let's prove to Bernie that we still have fight in us. Let's prove to him that he wasn't wrong in believing in working class people. Let's prove to him that his campaign slogan, not me, us, is the truth. So guys, I am rambling hella in this video. Thinking out loud, right? So sorry if it's not 100% cohesive, and I'm sorry if I didn't give you the perfect message of vigor and what should we do with this video. I'm sorry. That's what I set out to do, and I didn't quite get there. But I hope you're fucking feeling something. I hope you're ready to keep fighting. Take some time, lick your wounds, cry. I almost fucking did. But tomorrow, get up, start talking again, start thinking, start networking, because we have a long road and a lot of work ahead of us to take our country back. And I want you to know, I believe in each and every one of you. And I've got your back if you've got my back. And that alone, that little message, tells me that no matter what, no matter how long it takes, we're going to win. So anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap this video up. Sorry it wasn't perfect. You know, I'm still kind of new to the solo video thing. But we can do this, guys. We can do this, and we will. Let's regroup and get our shit together. Keep fighting. I want to apologize for not releasing another episode of the podcast this last week. You know, even before this Bernie thing, my mental health has taken a serious dip. I've been struggling with the workload of working full-time, raising my daughter, and trying to get this YouTube channel off the ground. It's a lot of work, and I've given a lot of myself to it. You know, and not just with the YouTube channel, but with Bernie's movement and organizing, I've made a lot of sacrifices. And they caught up to me. So I took some time this last week to rest, but Johnny and I are going to be recording today, and hopefully Saturday morning, we should have a new episode of the Entitled Millennials for you. And rest assured, it probably won't be the funnest episode. We'll still try to crack some jokes and make light of things, but we're going to get in deep talking about, you know, Bernie dropping out, and hopefully give you a more coherent message of what we do next than what I managed to accomplish in this video. But anyway, guys, thanks a lot for sitting here and talking with me. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, just by subscribing, liking, sharing. To all of those that have become patrons, that have given donations via PayPal, I really appreciate it, guys. Those little gestures, even though it's not a lot, mean so much to me, and they keep me doing this thing even when some days I'd rather just sit down and read a book or play a video game. So anyway, guys, this has been Thinking Out Loud with your boy Double D, and hopefully I'll make another video for you guys soon. Take it easy, and remember, don't lose hope. This fight has only just begun.
I don't